crumbles, I guess I have to record this presentation inside of my car on the way to work. But my project was about communication, obviously. And when you communicate, there's certain things that go on, certain phenomena. And my phenomena was centered around when you're I'll give you an example that happened to me. I was having a conversation with somebody. It was a fancy dinner, and I was trying to get to know them. And throughout the course of this conversation, while they were talking, they were doing things like this. They were pausing during the conversation. And throughout the course of the conversation, and in the back of my head, I was like, he's pausing for like kind of all the time. And it was an older guy. And as the conversation went on, I kind of stopped like worrying about the pauses. And instead of being so confused by them, I ended up being kind of intrigued by them. And it was interesting because he was like reeling me in throughout the course of the conversation. Well, he's probably not doing it with thinking, but he was just instinctively doing it, which is even cooler, to be honest. So my phenomenon, kind of the explanation of it, is my hypothesis, I should say, is how the modern digital, fast-paced communication landscape, such as what you can see through social media or texting, mostly online communication, how that sort of communication influences conversational tempo and how you process things and overall face-to-face interactions. And my phenomenon was analyzed through 4 different theoretical lenses. That was face negotiation theory, FNT, expectancy violations theory, EVT, SIP, which is social information processing theory, and social penetration theory, which is SPT. Now, face negotiation theory is basically when you're doing different things, or the concept of how you manage your face image, yourself, and how people will look at you. And in my phenomenon, it can be seen as how you're using pauses, or how you're not using pauses, but instead using filler words. So if it was someone like me communicating to someone my age, a bad habit that I might tend to take on is using filler words like, right, maybe at the beginning or at the end of my conversation, so that I don't lose face, right? So I can try and protect and manage my face. And tying into this is expectancy violation theory, which is basically how the person might look at your pauses or your filler words, right? So for me, in that first example of the conversation with the older person, I was kind of confused at first, so it was a negative violation of my expectancies. But depending on how you use pauses or filler words, or how you manage your communication, it could be a positive or negative expectancy violation. Social information processing theory is basically how you receive or communicate information online and throughout the digital landscape. That's how it tied into my theory. And social penetration theory is kind of, if you want to think about it, the undoing of the onion, or how you get to know somebody, and peeling the layers of the onion. And I kind of tied in the digital communication, or the digital landscape of communication, with all these theories, right? Because all these theories don't just apply to face-to-face communication, they also apply to digital communication. And what I wanted to analyze in my paper is whether there is a difference, and how these different theories tie in with digital communication and face-to-face communication, and how digital communication how leaning more towards digital communication and this type of modern communication lot of my paper is more so correlation with digital communication and what can be observed through digital communication.